All right, today we're diving into a text that, let me tell you, does not hold back. It's Osmer Martínez's The Manifesto of Permanent Anti-Communism. We're going to break down its core arguments, the historical case it makes, and the very direct solutions it proposes for what it calls the greatest ideological threat in the world.
So, right out of the gate, the Manifesto throws down the gauntlet. It kicks things off with this powerful statement, framing the whole thing as a defense of a natural, non-negotiable right to be free. This really sets the stage for what the author sees as this epic battle against oppression. It's a call to action from the very first sentence.
Okay, so first up, the problem. To really get what this text is about, you have to understand the fundamental conflict it presents. The author basically sees the world as being split between two totally opposite ways of thinking.
So, what's at the absolute heart of the Manifesto? It's this one central idea. The author argues that communism, in any and all of its forms, is the single most dangerous tool ever created for wrecking two fundamental things: your right to own property and your own personal drive to succeed.
And the text offers up its own definition of communism. And let me tell you, it's not what you'd find in a standard textbook. It calls it an ideology of subjugation. The whole purpose, according to the author, is to completely control the individual, wipe out their independence, and make everyone totally reliant on the state.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting. The Manifesto argues that this ideology is a bit of a shapeshifter. It doesn't always go by the name communism. The author claims it hides behind all these other modern labels you see here, like 21st century socialism or progressive modernization. The point being made is that these are just different masks for the same underlying ideas. So, after laying out the problem, the Manifesto really gets into building its case. It does this by presenting what it calls the criminal origins and the history of destruction it says communism has caused all over the world.
And this quote, wow, it's incredibly direct. The author is making a really bold claim here. The argument isn't that communism was a good idea that just went wrong in practice. No, the argument is that it was designed for domination from the very beginning. It was, in the text words, criminal in its origin, criminal in its implementation, and criminal in its consequences. That's a heavy statement for sure.
The author then tries to connect the dots, tracing this direct line from the founders of the ideology straight to its most infamous leaders. It presents this timeline, what it calls the architects of destruction. It claims the theories of Marx and Engels were directly put into practice as state-sponsored terror by figures like Lenin, Stalin, and Trotsky, creating a system built on violence from the ground up. And according to the Manifesto, these weren't just a few isolated tragedies. The author uses a striking phrase, the Red Pandemic, to describe how communism spread. The metaphor is pretty clear. It's framing the ideology as a kind of contagious disease that infected and devastated countries all over the globe.
To really drive the point home, the Manifesto lays out some absolutely staggering statistics. It cites these massive death tolls and attributes them directly to specific communist leaders and their policies, like Mao Zedong with 45 million, Pol Pot with 2 million, Kim Jong-il with 2.5 million. These numbers are really central to the author's argument about the human cost of the ideology. And the argument doesn't just stay in Asia or Eastern Europe. The author brings it right here to the Western Hemisphere. The Manifesto points to Cuba, citing figures on executions and confiscated property. It talks about Venezuela, alleging hundreds of billions in corruption. It even references UN reports on Nicaragua. The whole point is to show that, according to the text, these destructive patterns pop up wherever the ideology takes root.
Okay, so that's the problem in the history as the Manifesto sees it. But it doesn't just stop at diagnosing the issue. It moves on to propose a very detailed and proactive solution, something it calls a doctrine for freedom.
And this solution is broken down into a clear, four-step strategy called the principle of permanent resistance. It's not about sitting back, it's an active defense. First, identify the ideology's narratives. Second, expose its historical failures. Third, confront the narrative head-on in public. And finally, isolate communist regimes on the world stage. It's a full-on playbook. And it goes even further, recommending some very strong legal actions. The Manifesto actually suggests amending national constitutions to include specific prohibitions. We're talking about banning communist parties, preventing the ideology's influence in schools and the military, and legally protecting the courts and the media. The idea is to build an institutional firewall to block what it calls ideological capture.
Now, the solution laid out isn't just about playing defense. The Manifesto also puts forward what it sees as the clear alternative, and that's championing capitalism. Not just as an economic model, but as a powerful force for good in civilization. And here you can see the stark contrast the manifesto draws between the two systems. It argues that where communism impoverishes nations and destroys incentives, capitalism creates wealth and rewards effort. The text presents modern capitalism as the most powerful tool humanity has ever had to fight poverty and raise the quality of life for everyone.
So where is all of this heading? What's the ultimate endgame here? Well, this final section of the manifesto lays out its long-term vision, and it's not just about containing the threat, it's about eliminating it.
So, to wrap it all up, the text asks and answers a fundamental question about its own purpose. After all the history, all the arguments, all the proposals, what is the point of it all? Why does any of this matter?
And the answer is pretty ambitious. The stated supreme objective is not just about political victories or seeing certain regimes fall. The ultimate goal, as the author puts it, is to completely eradicate communism from human thought, making the ideology itself obsolete for future generations. And the manifesto closes with this final, provocative idea. It brings everything down to the level of the individual. It suggests that the ultimate defense against any form of tyranny is simply the will of a single person to be free. It's a powerful call to action, not for governments, but for each and every one of us, which is a fitting end to a text so focused on individual liberty.